Bucharest. Our Bucharest, as it looked like more than a century ago. This town, which during the Middle Ages played the most important part in the culture of Wallachia and of the entire European southeast, reveals at present, following the research work carried out by the care of the People's Council of the Municipality of Bucharest, the priceless vestiges of a culture but too little known. The town of Bucharest, boasting a unitary urban structure as early as the 16th century, sheltered a society developed artistically, culturally and economically at the level of its contemporary western towns, with all the authenticity which it was lent by the peculiar character of its architecture and urbanism. At first, in the 14th century, it was a mere citadel. As time went by, it turned into a fortress, a walled-in city, the city of Dâmbovița. By the 14th century, on the rich pastures, on the banks of the Dâmbovița River, sheltered by famous forests, the peasants were engaged in agriculture, cattle breeding, fishing, various handicrafts, and adorned themselves with beautiful jewelry, wrought in workshops back home or abroad. And the princely court, the oldest court in Bucharest, rebuilt by Vlad Țepeș during 1458 to 1459, entered history by the name of the Old Court. The Old Court, a film made at the request of the People's Council of the Municipality of Bucharest. In the middle of the 15th century, the walls of the old princely court were made of river stone. The durability of the walls was ensured both by the thickness of almost 1 meter and by the extremely resistant mortar which entered the composition of the construction. For 600 years, the walls have faced time with the same unflinching and stately grandeur. This is where the walled city used to be. This is where the princely court used to be. This charter, dated 1459, reads, issued in the city of Bucharest. Another charter from 1465 points to the function of the princely residence of the city, later called the wonderful seat of Bucharest. In 1558, Prince Mircea the Shepherd, by making use of the old and lasting foundations, turned the city of Bucharest into a stately princely palace. The ruling prince was interested not only in durability, but in beauty as well. That is why the master masons, simultaneously having in view beauty, lined the stones with bricks, thus obtaining a pleasant-looking blending of shapes and colors. Broad facades associate with and support the walls whose height reaches 5 meters. The walls, built with consummate craftsmanship, are supported by an ingenious system of longitudinal and transversal arches, ensuring them an unusual resistance. The same ruling prince, Mircea the Shepherd, also erected the church beside the princely court, the oldest architectural monument of Bucharest, which has been preserved entirely to this day. The threshold of this place of worship was crossed by the great Romanian ruling princes such as Michael the Brave, Matei Basarab, Constantin Brâncoveanu. The frame of the entrance door was chiseled in stone at the beginning of the 18th century. The sculpturing with floral motifs shows how Renaissance decoration takes over autochthonous forms, naturally integrating within the Romanian architecture. The architecture of this church marks the moment of bloom which has reached maturity as well as an originality, ensuring it world value. Inside, the portrait of the founders, Mircea the Shepherd and his wife, the harsh Lady Chiajna. Old icons overlaid with silver. A famous craftsman of the time decorated the altar screen while the columns with motifs characteristic of the Brâncovean style, similar to those from the porch of the palace, increase the beauty of this place of worship. These chopped-off walls, furrowed by deep fissures, have inscribed in stone and brick the tormented history of Bucharest, and alongside it, that of Wallachia. The battles, the fires burning down everything, the invasions completely destroyed many a time a huge part of the town. But just as the phoenix, Bucharest came back to life time and time again. In 1594, it is here that Michael the Brave drew up the plan of the liberation from under the Ottoman yoke. Though victorious at Kalugăreni in August 1595, the Romanian army temporarily withdrew in the mountains. Sinan Pasha seized Bucharest, finding at the princely court the bombards prepared by the Romanians for holding out against the enemy. The chronicle of the Silesian Balthazar Walter records that Bucharest was reconquered from the Ottomans after 2 months. But the battles did not grant the necessary time to the fiery ruling prince, Michael, to rebuild what had been destroyed. It was only during the rather quieter reign of Matei Basarab that the palace was rebuilt, having been enlarged with additional rooms. The town of Bucharest constituted the center of the ties with the Western countries. It was visited by ambassadors and men of science who described in their notes the original architecture which they had not come across anywhere else. A pool for collecting water, another smaller one, pipes, the oven for heating the water, make up an interesting bathroom installation of the princely court around 1650. And as Bucharest was a convenient halting place, this is where the merchandise was sold off, so that the ruling prince, the boyars, and the well-off merchants should choose what was to their liking and what they were supposed to wear, each according to his rank. The pavements of some of these merchants' houses were found in the yard of Manuc's Inn, or at the inn with linden trees. In these shops, they sold merchandise brought from Leipzig, Vienna, Zurich, Köln, Venice, and Stamboul, from Czechia and Poland, from overseas. At present, a thick layer of earth, of about 2 meters, covers up the old houses and streets. For a better traffic of pedestrians and carts loaded with merchandise, the center of Bucharest was crossed by streets laid out with wooden planks. At the old court, new pipes and canals for conveying water and disposing of it were being provided. These were carried into effect by craftsmen skillfully mastering the technique for such works. The foreign travelers passing through Bucharest noticed the system of conveying water to the bathrooms and kitchens in the princely palace. He who was to give the greatest brilliance to the princely court was Constantin Brâncoveanu. This is what the chronicler writes about him, perpetually concerned with embellishing the princely court, who also erected the wall surrounding the court. The court of Bucharest becomes an elevated forum of Romanian culture. Skilled miniaturists decorate the manuscripts and printings with choice floral and animal motifs. High Steward Constantin Cantacuzino, a scholar of world renown, made the map of Wallachia, which he printed in Padua in 1700. This valuable cartographic document contains the country's rivers and mountains, counties, towns, boroughs, and more important villages, the ruins, and even the traces of the remote past. After the appearance in 1678 of the first Bucharest printing, The Key of Understanding, in 1688 followed the Bible, a significant moment in the Romanian language and literature, which was printed with the contribution of the most accomplished scholars. After Constantin Brâncoveanu was killed, the old court, located in the center of the town, began to run low. It is here that ruling Prince Nicolae Mavrocordat was captured by the imperial hosts in 1716. The famous princely court ran so low that after sheltering in 1789 the hosts of the Prince of Saxon-Coburg, it was parceled out and sold to some merchants within only a decade in 1799. Each new landlord started to make changes according to his taste. Some pulled down to the foundations and rebuilt everything or added new walls over the old ones. Others used the rooms as they took them over till they got completely dilapidated. Only the cellars, the mysterious and beautiful cellars, could be used as they were. They witnessed the blazing scorch of fire, the earthquake, or the turmoil of fights. Among those who bought part of the old court, put up for auction, was also the famous merchant Manuk, who built in the southeastern corner the hugest inn in Bucharest from the beginning of the 19th century, an inn whose yard was always crowded with the caravans of the merchants coming from everywhere. Manuk's inn seemed a unitary building, but the archaeological diggings which furrowed the inner yard revealed walls and vaulted cellars. The building materials and techniques pointed to a higher age than the inn, a large number of walls belonging to the old court. After the removal of the new walls, added out of the desire to make smaller rooms, there appeared, in all its grandeur, a vast hall which sheltered the Supreme Court towards the 18th century. This building was erected according to the traditional Romanian construction design, being decorated with the most refined elements of Baroque architecture. On the upper side, there was discovered a big belvedere, raised on wooden pillars, decorated with rosettes, lilies, and stalactites. These pillars were covered up by the walls added by Manuk's master masons, and this is how they have been preserved to our days. The pillars differ by the richness of decoration from those used by Manuk at the completion of the porches decorating his inn. Also at Manuk's inn, there was discovered the building of the guardhouse erected in the 18th century. Its long cellars stayed intact to our days. Here too, the master masons of the time made out of bricks and gutter tiles canals for the disposal of the water to the close-by riverbed of the Dymbovica. Beyond this beautiful archway, there was discovered a room with 5 big enameled earthen vessels which could store 2,000 liters of oil. The exterior decoration, consisting of repeated courts, reminds one of the ornamental motifs one comes across with age-old autochthonous pottery. In spite of the fact that Manuk's master masons erected the walls out of wooden beams joined with bricks so as to withstand the movement of the soil, the earthquake of 1838, which demolished a large part of the buildings of Bucharest, also destroyed some walls of the inn. A gold piece, coined in the very year of the earthquake, was found under the foundation of a wall. The French artist Michel Bouquet drew Manuk's Inn in 1841, but the fire of March the 23rd, 1847, which laid waste the entire center of the town, also fell upon the famous inn. After about 30 years, the Deisha Hotel was opened here, having the ceilings of the rooms on the first floor richly decorated with paintings and moldings as required by the fashion of those times. In the yard of the inn, the Deisha Hall was opened, a place where a large number of political meetings took place up to World War I. Through the restoration works initiated by the People's Council of the Municipality of Bucharest, the historical area of the old court recovers its one-time appearance. It includes Manuk's Inn as well as 100 houses built by the craftsmen whose trades came down to this day in the denomination of the streets, such as Sadler's Street, Hatter's Street, Grocer Street, Coppersmith Street, and others. Manuk's Inn regains under our very eyes its original shape. The detaching of the two houses from the ensemble of the old court, the observance of the plastic decoration and its application on the spaces where it came off, the use of a system of roofing, the closest possible to its original form, they all tend to give back to Bucharest an authentic edifice. And all this with an accomplice action of a great national significance. Past history. Should there exist anybody not to be impressed by the objects of wars which served and sheltered our forerunners? In places well known or accidentally discovered, people are searching everywhere. We want to know, to see where, when, and how our ancestors lived. Anima Film, Bucharest.